Hello, Bison Basketball Nation. We are the Bison Brothers Basketball Podcast, the number one source for all things Howard's men and women's basketball team. You want in-depth analysis of games, quality previews, quality interviews with past, present, and future Howard University basketball constituents and fans? Then you've come to the right place. We just need you to hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and spread the word. I am one of your hosts. My name is Chip Washington, self-appointed Howard University basketball fanatic. I will also be joined by my Bison and blood brother, Eric Washington, a hoops aficionado, aka E-Wash, and I'll also be joined by my Bison brother from another mother, a former hooper, Mr. Brian Foston, aka B Smooth, Gary, Indiana's finest. And look, we're only going to be here about once a week for only about 30 minutes. But we're going to be with you all year long, breaking down games, highlighting in-season news, off-season news, crazy transfer portal and NIL news, and anything else that affects the HU basketball program. So for this debut show, we wanted to kick it off ahead of the men's team season opener against the number one rated Kansas Jayhawks on Monday, November 4th at 8 p.m. The Bison will head down to Allen Fieldhouse in Kansas, and I'm saying prepare to shock the world. The men's team is led by head coach Kenny Blakeney, and we're going to face off for the third time against Kansas. The first time was in 1992 in the first round of the NCAA tournament, and this is a game where all three of your hosts actually attended. Now, I'm not going to go off on a tangent on how me and E-Wash thought we were going to make a whole lot of money by selling extra tickets. That's a story for another podcast. But we lost to Kansas in 1992. We faced them again in 2023, again in the first round of the NCAA tournament in Iowa, and we lost that game. But one of your hosts, Brian B. Smooth, actually ended up being the darling of the NCAA tournament during the One Shining Moment video. But here at the Bison Brothers Basketball Podcast, we think the third time's a charm. And we plan to go down there. And I say we, because I'm a rabid Howard University basketball fan. I take it personally. We gonna go down there and we gonna get a W. So that's the plan. We're hoping that Howard University men's basketball and women's basketball puts the world on notice that the Bison will be a mid-major force to be reckoned with for years to come. So I know what you're saying. Chip, put down whatever you're smoking. There's no way the Bison are going to go on the road to number one Kansas and pull off the upset. I get it. It's going to be a tall task. But here's how I think the Bison can get it done. And this is with or without the number one player, their all preseason player of the year, Hunter Dickinson, because ESPN, I think, is reporting he might not be available for the season opener. But here on the Bison Brothers Basketball Podcast, we don't care if Hunter Dickinson is there or not, because we want all the smoke. So Kansas is stacked with or without Dickinson. They returning their point guard, DeJuan Harris. They got a transfer from Wisconsin, AJ Storr. They got a lights out shooter transfer from Northern Illinois, number 8, David Coit. Note to Coach Blakeney, David Coit needs to be guarded as soon as he comes in the building. That kid can light it up. And they still got the man-child forward, Mr. KJ Adams. He's a menacing force at 6'7", 235 pounds, who, the last I saw at Kansas, he added a little bit of handle to his game and is way more than just a bruiser on the inside. But look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The Bison have a tall task ahead of them. But tall, and maybe even lengthy, might be a good transition, because the Bison, we returned some good size in the front court. We got, I think it's Don Campbell returning at 6'9", 268 forward, transferred from Notre Dame. We got 6'11", 230-pound forward, center, Syracuse transfer, I think it's Monir Hema. And I expect Monir Hema to be an excellent backline rim protector. And I expect Don Campbell to take some significant steps this season as he now has a year experience under Coach Blakeney. So, and I didn't even mention the backcourt. We're still bringing back our premier three-point shooter, Marcus Dockery. And we got some height and experience in the transfer portal in the backcourt. We got 6'4" Anwar Gill from LaSalle. We got 6'6" forward Cameron Shockley Okiki. I hope I'm saying his name right. And then we got my dark horse for MEAC Rookie of the Year, number 7, 6'5", Bryce Harper. All of this, and I haven't even mentioned the MEAC Preseason Player of the Year, returning senior Bryce Harris at 6'4". And we bringing back 4 other players from last season's MEAC championship team and NCAA tournament team. So look, the Bison are bringing an experienced squad, and we are prepared to lace them up against number 1 Kansas. I think the Bison have enough depth to allow Coach Blakeney to potentially return to his hockey shift 10-man rotations, just like with any new season. And especially in this era of the transfer portal, it's going to take more than just talent to succeed. But the Bison have plenty of talent. But with that tease of a preview, before we get too deep into the X's and O's, I think it's important to understand the narrative that is Howard Bison basketball. So ever since Coach Blakeney came on the scene at Howard in 2019, the men's team has been on an upward trajectory. Coach Blakeney's story is truly fascinating, and I hope we can bring him on the podcast soon so he can share more of his story and his vision for the program. But even looking at the program from the outside in, you could see the story of the program just looking at the numbers. In Coach's first season, he had 4 wins. 4 wins out of 32 games. And he went 1-15 in the MEAC. I don't know about y'all, but only winning 4 games in your first season, that's kind of deflating. And of course, the 2019-2020 season was cut short by COVID. But from a narrative perspective, I want to highlight one of the players from that 2019-2020 season, and that was freshman Khalil Robinson. And I'll explain later why I'm singling out Khalil as opposed to the standout junior sharpshooter during that season, Mr. Kyle Foster. So now you move to the 2020-2021 season, another season that was devastated by COVID. That season was cut short by 5 games. Now, a lot of you might remember that 2020-2021 season because we had signed McCord Maker, a 5-star prospect who at that time was the highest rated prospect to ever sign with a HBCU. But unfortunately, not only was the season cut short due to COVID, but McCord Maker's season was cut short by injury. So, that was that. But now we turn to the 2021-2022 season, and that team won 16 games. They went 16-13 and then went 9-5 in the MEAC. So think about my man Khalil Robinson, who I highlighted earlier. He started with a team that won 4 games in his freshman year, had a season cut short to 5 games in his sophomore year, and now in his 3rd year, under the leadership of Coach Blakeney, he won 16 games. I already want to get Khalil Robinson on the podcast just so I could hear his perspective on whether he could see at the time that he was a freshman that the team was headed in the direction that it was. So I hope we can get Khalil on this show pretty soon. But I believe that 16-game season ended with the men's team losing in the MEAC tourney to basically currently a MEAC perennial powerhouse, Norfolk State. The MEAC, Norfolk, that'll be a whole nother episode we can discuss, but they are pivotal to Howard's success, as I believe, with the conference getting stronger, that's going to make all of the teams better in the MEAC. And so now you get the 2022-2023 season, and the Bison win a whopping 22 games and went 11-3 in the MEAC and became MEAC champions, went to the NCAA tournament where, like I said before, we lost to Kansas, but only to come back for the 2023-2024 season. And well, okay, wait. Before I jump to the 2023-2024 season, again, in this era of the transfer portal, it's important to note that Coach Blakeney lost 3 players from that 2022-2023 MEAC championship team. But you know who he didn't lose? Khalil Robinson. All right, I don't know how that plays a role in the narrative, but I wanted to point it out anyway. So, well, actually, let me back up. Actually, I do know how it affects the narrative. I like to read a lot of self-improvement books, and I'm fascinated by how people achieve success against all odds. And I think those qualities that you get in adversity, they can be honed and developed in everyone. And I think Khalil Robinson, who I definitely want to get on the show to talk about that journey, he's emblematic of the program that Coach Blakeney is building at Howard. And so now, moving on to the 2023-2024 season, even after losing 3 starters from the previous team, Coach Blakeney comes back, wins 18 games, and again wins the MEAC tournament to become back-to-back MEAC champions. So I say all that to say that it is without question that Coach Blakeney knows how to build a winning program. He knows how to recruit tough, winning basketball players. And so when you are watching the men's basketball team, you have to know that you are watching a team and a program that is forged out of adversity, out of grit, out of grind, and out of determination. And that, Bison Basketball Nation, is the program that is heading to Allen Fieldhouse to take on number 1 Kansas. So in the episodes to come, we hope that you spread the word, 1, about this podcast, 2, the Bison basketball program, and 3, as you spread the word, encourage folks to get behind and support the growth of this program so that we as fans can continue to watch the program blossom. And as viewers of this podcast, you could say that you were an early adopter to what is sure to be a mid-major force that is poised to set the basketball world on fire. I don't want to get too lofty, but seriously, Bison Nation, Coach Blakeney is bringing a tough and gritty squad to Kansas, and I expect nothing less than maximum effort and a team showing up that Bison Basketball Nation will be proud to support. So, in my view, translating that grit and grind into tenacious defense for a full 40 minutes, along with maximum execution and communication on offense, and I think that's going to be the recipe to pull off an upset against a stacked Kansas squad. And look, like I said, I know we spent a lot of time on the men, but we don't want to forget the women because they're heading down to take on SWAC rival Florida A&M. And as much, or I would even say the women's team's accomplishments are on par, if not better, than the men's teams. So we're looking, and I'm hoping that we have the problem of having to follow both the men's and the women's team making deep tourney runs in the NCAA tournament. So we got Destiny Howe returning from injury. So I'm looking for big things from Coach Ty Grace and Destiny Howe on the women's side. It's an exciting time. It's the golden age of Howard University basketball. So, hey, look, we thank you for watching the Bison Brothers Basketball Podcast. Again, be sure to hit that like button, that subscribe button, so you won't miss any episodes, and you can be a part of the ever-growing Bison basketball fan base. Look, we appreciate you. HU, you know, go Bison.